So Donald Trump was just asked about the AI photo he posted of himself as Jesus Christ, and you will not believe the justification he came up with. Just watch.
Mr. President, did you post that picture of yourself depicted as Jesus Christ?
Well, it wasn't depicted. It was me. I did post it, and I thought it was me as a doctor, and it had to do with Red Cross as a Red Cross worker there, which we support, and only the fake news could come up with that one. So I just heard about it, and I said, how did they come up with that? It's supposed to be me as a doctor making people better, and I do make people better. I make people a lot better. As an example,
Really? Really? That's the best you could come up with? You thought you were a doctor? I mean, that is so absurd. Just out of curiosity, what doctor is wearing robes like this? The exact same robes that Jesus wears in depictions. What doctor is being prayed to? What doctor can heal people by putting their hand on somebody's head? Yeah, obviously, Donald Trump didn't think this was a doctor. Nobody in the Republican Party believes this. He posted it, and now he's trying to backtrack, but we know what he did. It's still very weird.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Trend Views, the place where we break down the headlines everyone's talking about. And of course, sometimes the ones that make you question reality itself. So, all right, let's get into this one because, wow. So, picture this. The President of the United States, Donald Trump, posts an AI-generated image of himself depicted as Jesus. Yes, that Jesus. You know, robes, holy imagery, the whole divine aesthetics. And when journalists ask him about it, instead of walking it back or clarifying, he casually shrugs it off and says it's a doctor. A doctor? Right? Because when I think medical professionals, I imagine picture glowing, messianic imagery site out of resonance painting. Totally normal. Nothing to see here.
Mr. President, did you post that picture of yourself depicted as Jesus Christ?
Well, it wasn't depicted. It was me. I did post it, and I thought it was me as a doctor, and it had to do with Red Cross as a Red Cross worker there, which we support, and only the fake news could come up with that one. So I just heard about it, and I said, how did they come up with that? It's supposed to be me as a doctor making people better, and I do make people better. I make people a lot better. As an example, the 11,000, I understand your husband's going through treatment.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He's
He
going
has
through
cancer.
some very serious cancer treatment, so
Yes, sir.
this goes a long way.
Yes, sir. It sure does.
Mr. President, are another
So you've already seen that Trump posted that AI image of himself as Jesus Christ. But what you might not have seen is that he admitted to posting it, but he said that he was a doctor in the picture, right? A doctor in a flowing white robe with glowing hands, healing the sick while bald eagles fly overhead next to fighter jets. A photo that Christians across the spectrum called blasphemous. You had MTG saying it was more than blasphemy, saying that it's Antichrist spirit. You had Daily Wire host demanding that he take it down, the Knights Templar calling it outrageous, and Trump ended up deleting it the next morning. Again, telling reporters, I thought it was me as a doctor and had to do with the Red Cross. He called the Backlash fake news. This also came less than an hour after he went off on Pope Leo, writing, Pope Leo is weak on crime and terrible for foreign policy. Also claiming the church only made Leo the Pope to deal with Trump, saying if I wasn't in the White House, Leo wouldn't be in the Vatican. And understand, all the Pope's done is call for peace and said that Trump's threat to destroy an entire civilization was truly unacceptable. But then Trump's response was, I don't want a Pope who thinks it's terrible that America attacked Venezuela. But Leo, he's standing firm, saying, I have no fear of the Trump administration, and saying he's not interested in debating Trump, he just believes in the gospel's message of peace. Also notably, reports surfaced that administration officials had threatened the Vatican over the Pope's criticism, right? And all of this happened on the same weekend that Trump declared a naval blockade of Iran's ports. And all of that just in one weekend. So hey, for now, follow to stay in the loop, share to spread the word, and try to stay sane if you can.
MAGA is having an epic meltdown today, and Donald Trump is the reason, as they are losing their minds over Trump depicting himself as Jesus. Now, if you missed it last night, Donald Trump posted an AI image depicting himself as Jesus healing the sick. And MAGA absolutely is having a meltdown. They are calling it blasphemous. They want people to disavow Trump. They want an apology from Trump. They are absolutely losing their minds, and I understand where they're coming from. However, Donald Trump has mocked. He has belittled. He has made fun of countless people, groups, and things in the past. At any time somebody spoke out against it, MAGA was there to accuse you of having TDS. He's just trolling. It's just Trump being Trump. You need to take a joke. Well, now it's their turn. And they're having a meltdown. They somehow thought that they were going to be safe from this. Well, today, MAGA is having their bout of TDS. But it is amazing that Donald Trump is desperately trying to push away what little bit of his base he has left. And where this lands is going to be interesting. Stay tuned.
Here's something you almost never see President Trump do: delete a controversial social media post. And yet, the president has done just that after sharing an image that depicted him as Jesus Christ.
I did post it, and I thought it was me as a doctor, and had to do with Red Cross as a Red Cross worker there, which we support. Only the fake news could come up with that one. I just heard about it, and I said, how did they come up with that? It's supposed to be me as a doctor.
Now, the president posted this image on his Truth Social page, and shortly thereafter started getting some backlash from people who were typically supporters of his, including prominent evangelicals and figures on the right, including Riley Gaines, who's been a guest at the White House and questioned why the president would share that image in the first place. She wrote, "I cannot understand why he'd post this. Is he looking for a response? Does he actually think this?" It was only a few hours later that the president deleted that image that he had shared on Truth Social, one that he had posted in the hours after he had criticized the Pope online, calling the Pope too liberal after he spoke out against the United States' war in Iran. Now, the president did not delete his criticism of the Pope, but he did delete the one that made him look like he was Jesus Christ.
Breaking news, Trump is now openly attacking the Pope and referring to himself as God, literally depicting himself as Jesus Christ. He posted this AI-generated photo on his Truth Social moments ago. I'm not joking, go check it out for yourself. Inside of this photo, he is wearing red and white robes, which are typically used in modern-day depictions of Jesus Christ. And inside of this photo, he's also using what seem to be divine powers to heal a sick man. This is without question him depicting himself as the Christian God. Trump posted that photo moments after he posted this rant attacking the Pope, saying that he likes the Pope's brother much more because he's MAGA, saying that he doesn't want a Pope who will criticize him. Then also goes on to say that Leo is weak and says that the only reason why Leo is Pope is because of him. This is undoubtedly sacrilegious, and if it was anybody but Trump, it would be the unquestioned end of their political career, considering the fact that around 70% of Americans are Christian. In fact, according to the Christian worldview, not only is this extremely heretical, but blasphemous. That's all for now. I'll keep you updated as we learn more.
Donald Trump is attacking the Pope and declaring himself Jesus. This all happened in the last 12 hours. Yesterday on Orthodox Easter, Trump tweeted a broadside against the Pope, a huge screed calling him weak on crime, terrible on foreign policy, suggesting that he's afraid of Donald Trump, and the only reason the Pope got picked is because the Vatican was so terrified of Donald Trump. Now, this comes on the news from earlier this week that Trump's Defense Department threatened to attack the Vatican, literally, physically, militarily attack the Vatican. This is pretty screwed up, guys. Well, then what happens? Last night on Orthodox Easter, Trump then tweets an image of himself as Jesus. Here you've got Trump on Truth Social. I looked it up. It's real. Trump here, Jesus healing like the dead or the dying, American flags, really creepy images of demons apparently dressed as U.S. troops, eagles, Statue of Liberty. So it's this whole fascist American kind of thing. Really creepy stuff. Interestingly, a number of Trump supporters are now invoking the Antichrist, former Trump supporters who are not happy with him, including Marjorie Taylor Greene, Trump's biggest supporter in Congress. Here's Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's more than blasphemy. It's an Antichrist spirit. Here is another longtime Trump supporter making the same point. Now, for anybody who doesn't know, the Antichrist comes from the Bible. The concept is that the devil sends somebody in his image, like God sent Jesus. He would come, around now. When I was a kid, everybody postulated that he would be a rich international businessman and that he would basically come to save us all, but he would be truly doing the work of the devil. Jesus would eventually defeat him. Just kind of interesting that a lot of the evangelical types are now suggesting that this is Trump. Now, this guy is not evoking the Antichrist, but another Trumper who's very upset. I was rooting for Trump. I wanted to be president. Voted for him 3 times. He isn't who he promised to be. He's the opposite. Trump has a God complex, but I can think of anyone who's farther from God than he is. Interesting stuff. Help me make a difference. Make sure to share and follow this video.
Now, here's where things get interesting and honestly kind of ironic. Many white American Christians who have long been part of Trump's political base, right, are now amused. They are not amused at all. In fact, they are furious, and you can see why. For a group that takes religious symbolism seriously, seeing a political figure portray himself in that kind of sacred role, yeah, that's not exactly going to go over well. Social media reactions have been, let's just say, spicy. Some people are calling it disrespectful, others are questioning his judgment. And a lot of folks are just flat out confused because regardless of your political views, you kind of expect the president to, I don't know, not blur the line between political leadership and divine imagery. But maybe that's old-fashioned thinking in 2026. And the expectation, if you can even call it that, just made things worse. Calling it a doctor, rather the explanation. Now, calling it a doctor feels less like a clarification and more like someone hoping everyone just stops asking questions. It's like when you clearly see someone spill juice on the floor and they go, no, that's just decorative water. Sure. Now, what's really striking here is the reaction from his own supporters, right? Because this isn't coming from political opponents. This backlash is coming from people who, up until now, have largely stood by him. And when your core base starts raising eyebrows, that's when you know something has hit a nerve. It also raises a bigger question, like, where do people draw the line? Political loyalty is one thing, but when it starts crossing into areas of faith and identity, that's a different conversation entirely. And let's be honest, guys, if any other public figure had done this, the internet would have exploded in about 5 seconds flat. But because it's Trump, there's always this strange pause where people go, wait, did that really just happen, before reacting? So at the end of the day, this situation feels like a mix of confusion, disbelief, and a whole lot of side eye. Because whether you find it offensive, ridiculous, or just plain bizarre, it's definitely not something you expect to see from a sitting president. So, but hey, maybe next week we'll get an AI image of him as a firefighter, a pilot, or who knows, maybe an astronaut this time. That will keep the team going, right? So I want to hear from you. Do you think this was just a joke that went too far? Or does it cross a serious line, especially considering the audience it affects? And what does this say about leadership and accountability today? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Let's talk about it. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next video. This is Trend Views, and I'll see you in the next video. As always, credit belongs to original creators.